Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bright Minds channel, forefronting new approaches to neurosciences with Chief Executive Officer Ian McDonald. Welcome back and Happy New Year, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you? What's going on?
Living the dream, brother. Just trying to survive the cold weather up north. How about yourself?
Same. I'm snowed in like everybody else.
Yep, sounds about right. So as we kick the year off here, man, lots to dive into today, but I want to roll back a little bit. I mean, from your molecules, your 5-HT2C to your 5-HT2A, treating seizures, opioid use, Alzheimer's, depression, PTSD, what milestones did Bright Minds achieve that really stuck out to you in 2021 that are kind of notable?
On our 5-HT2C program, we had de-risked that compound significantly preclinically. So we had tested this compound in all sorts of preclinical models to test various disease states. Does this compound work to treat epilepsy? Yes, it does. Does this compound work to treat opioid use disorder? Again, yes, it does. Alzheimer's disease, psychosis, and agitation had some pretty compelling data on that as well. So what we have proven, at least preclinically, is that this mechanism of 5-HT2C, which is just the receptor that it works on in the body, mediates these actions, and that is accomplished well with our lead candidate BMB-101. We've also done preclinical studies on those assets, which allow us. These are toxicity and safety studies, which are gating items in order to reach clinical trials, which we'll be entering in a couple of months. So it's been a very busy year on that program. On the 5-HT2A, which is the psychedelic receptor, and therefore they are psychedelic drugs. That program has been going gangbusters. We have, as far as we know, the largest psychedelic drug discovery program of novel molecules, inventing new psychedelics that's ever existed in history. We've got over 25 chemists working on creating those novel psychedelics with these next generation features. They're really build on the base of first generation psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin, et cetera, and fine tune them to give you the therapeutic action without some of the unwanted side effects. So we've created literally hundreds of new psychedelics that have never been seen on the earth before, and a lot of those compounds are incredibly interesting. Some didn't work, other ones looked okay, but we have quite a long list of compounds which could potentially be best-in-class medicines for particular indications, such as depression, PTSD potentially as well, and some other less talked about indications.
Yeah, now you mentioned as well that a lot of these are going to be moving into like phase 1 trials. Is there anything we can expect at a Q1 here, or anything else that investors should be aware of, or just some insights?
Yes, so we'll be updating the market on our psychedelic drug program and shedding a little bit more light on the compound that we'll be taking forward there into the clinic. But I'd say that we internally are very excited about that program. While we'll be advancing only one or a couple of those molecules, we have a very large portfolio of them. So we'll be identifying ways to monetize those assets as the year goes on. So lots of interesting stuff on that program to be talked about, and we'll be entering clinic in the next couple months on our 5-HT2C drug to treat Dravet syndrome, which is a rare childhood form of epilepsy that your viewers may be familiar with. It was the same disease that GH Pharmaceuticals got approved for with Epidiolex, which is the brand name for CBD. So we'll be going after that same indication with our drug BMB-101.
So lots to look forward to as the news comes down the wire. I'm very intrigued because we're kind of in this cyclical sell-off right now, especially hitting a lot of the smaller caps, which is incredible because obviously the value opportunity is getting larger and larger. I mean, these market caps that you guys are approaching are worth, I would arguably say, in the almost trillions of dollars value, because these are massive problems facing society, right? But in the midst of COVID, hyperinflation, just everything the Fed's doing, this interest rate environment, the cyclical sell-off. I mean, is there any comments you want to mention into this? How much of this is impacting you guys personally from like the medical front? Just any, at all mentions or comments about it?
Yeah, so it's been a terrible couple of months for any, call it risk sectors. Biotech is certainly one of those. Biotech is a sector that really outperforms in periods of optimism, and it's been subject to pessimism for not only the past couple of months, but really the past year. So biotech has quietly had a horrible year in 2021. You have the XBI, which is the major biotech index, go from 170 in February of last year to $95 today. So I mean, that's quite a substantial haircut. And that index is inclusive of a lot of larger cap biotech names. These are drugs with approval or very close to approval. So the smaller cap names have really even been hit harder than that, than the average of that, call it 40%, 40-ish percent reduction in price over the last year. So you have a lot of these smaller cap biotech names that are trading at cash, some even below cash. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. I would say that the science has really only keeps getting better for biotech. We know a lot more about the body, a lot more about how to build drugs to treat specific indications and to ameliorate some problems through a specific mechanism that we didn't necessarily know a few years ago. There are very promising new areas of medicine that have come up, and I don't think that's been reflected in the share price of this class in general. Now, typically, what you see after a year that we've just had in biotech, where you have this massive sell-off, sustained sell-off and sector rotation, is that the valuations, one, are so compelling that you have investors start to look at it and say, okay, this no longer makes sense. These are quality companies, a lot of them. I mean, some aren't, but there's a lot of quality companies there that have a very attractive, de-risked pipeline and set of assets that are trading far lower than they were when these assets were less mature than they are now. So you've had, if you were looking at it completely agnostically to markets, you have a business that's far more advanced, trading for less than it was previously, with considerably less value that's been generated. So I think it should be quite a strong year for the space. And the other point, speaking about low valuations, is it starts to make these targets for mergers and acquisition activity. So you have the pharmaceutical industry, in contrast to biotech, which has been sold off hard. You have the pharmaceutical industry, which has just been printing cash for the last couple of years, and they haven't really deployed it. So they'll need to fill up their pipelines and have more drugs, because you have a drug, it's on patent for a number of years, and then once it goes off patent, the pharmaceutical company effectively isn't making any money off that drug anymore. So they need to get more drugs to replace that. And they do that largely through biotech, through acquiring companies or doing partnership opportunities. And guess what? The price just came down significantly. It's been cut in half. It's been cut in a third in a lot of cases. So I think you should start to see more M&A activity in that space. And when you get M&A activity, you have all these funds that were previously in whatever story just got taken out. They have to redeploy that capital back into the market again. Yeah. So it creates this sort of self reinforcing process, which I think we are on the precipice of. And it's all a sort of elaborate explanation of this simple adage that the best cure for low prices is low prices.
Good points. I really appreciate that, Ian. And I also want to point out the fact that I pay a lot of attention to some of those acquisitions amongst a lot of these new emerging sectors with CBD psychedelics. And you'll always notice them trading for like, $500,000 billion in value. And these big farmers finally come in because they don't have access to that explosive potential. So what they'll do is they always buy it out for like 5 or 10x the value of what those companies are always trading for. It's very intriguing stuff. But I really appreciate these insights today. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks so much.
And on that note, folks, if you have any questions, let us know what you think in that comment section below on the psychedelic sector. For that news as it comes down the wire, consider subscribing for those future updates. But stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.